Welcome back to Hannity. So yesterday, Hillary Clinton finally spoke out about her scandalous use of personal email accounts while serving as Secretary of State. Now, despite her dodges, as we reported earlier, the AP filed a lawsuit against the State Department. Now, the AP's executive editor, Kathleen Carroll, stated, quote, "The Freedom of Information Act exists to give citizens a clear view of what government officials are doing on their behalf. When that view is denied, the next resort is the courts." Joining me now for legal analysis, criminal defense attorney Robert Bianchi and the host of Justice, Judge Jeanine Pirro. All right, well, let's start at the beginning. The AP first requested documents and emails
in 2010.
5 years ago.
Right.
All right.
Right.
So, what is the law in terms of, did she break the law?
All right, there are several issues here, and I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this, but number one, unless we can prove that she intentionally destroyed something that was a part of the federal record that should have been preserved, or if she is concealing stuff that should have been preserved, those are federal crimes. That goes without saying. There is no question she violated State Department rules, and the question is, has she exposed us through this use of a personal emails and the personal security server to any kind of problem internationally, or at the end of the day, did she intentionally hide her
But the
action?
only way you will be able to find out if there was intention here, we've waited, wait a minute, she waited 2 years to comply with the Records Act. She was supposed to be handing these over on a regular basis. So does that justify any type of subpoena of the server?
What
we won't know till we get to the
last Saturday was the first thing I do as a prosecutor is I get a subpoena for that server. I don't care if it's in her house or Bill Clinton's house. These are records that we are entitled to see. And the real problem here is how she ran that State Department. The rules apply to everyone but her. She's firing people for doing the same thing that she does, and for 6 years, or whatever, 5 years, no one was able to get any information under the Freedom of Information Act.
For 2 years, Congress has been, they had their own investigation in Benghazi going on. If I waited 2 years to comply with a congressional request for my emails, why do I suspect I'd call you?
You'd be in jail.
I'd be handcuffed, perp walked.
And you know what?
Mugshotted,
the Inspector
and calling
General
you saying bail me out.
The Inspector General said the State Department was run ineffectively and inefficiently. All right? And the problem with that is, and everybody knows who's been in government office, whether you're in at the lowest level of government, freedom of information is something that the public is entitled to know.
So she's not complying. She hasn't complied. She hasn't complied with the AP. She hasn't complied with the Benghazi Select Committee.
Well, Sean, I think a lot of this is going to come down to, and I agree with the judge, is if, from a prosecutorial standpoint, was there an intention, was there a willful deception in order to try to prevent information from coming out to the government?
Can a reasonable person conclude that there was an attempted deception, considering she waited 5 years in one case, and it's been 2 years and she still hasn't handed over what she should have been recording according to the Records Act?
Sean, her argument is, and it's factual, and prosecutors are going to look very deeply into this if they're going to look into it at all, is to determine whether or not when she was sending those emails, they were going to government servers. Her defense is that those documents were there. She did nothing to conceal or destroy that information.
Wait a minute, but do we know that? And how does she get to decide which emails to delete? 32,000 of them.
Sean,
Bill Clinton, she says, I used to email my husband. According to her husband's spokesman,
He doesn't email.
He doesn't email.
I agree with you, but based on the way these laws are written right now, the way that things are changed and the policies are changing, I agree with you. No single person should be the arbiter as to whether or not something is a government record or not.
How legally can either the Benghazi Select Committee or the AP get that server?
With a subpoena.
And can they get that?
I believe that they can get a court-ordered subpoena.
How?
If there is an issue, if they can show that there is a probability that something is awry here, that some federal law was violated.
Does the length of time that she has chosen to comply, does that justify it?
I would argue in that request that this whole setup was designed to defy freedom of information, designed to defy classified information.
And the right judge would agree with you.
Absolutely.
And the wrong judge would not. Yeah.
Well, respectfully, I don't know if I would agree with that, because lots of times government workers, it may not be the best practices, but it doesn't mean they're doing something illegal so long long as the emails that she's sending, and she's indicated, have gone to government workers, then those emails, in fact,
But
are
wait
preserved.
a minute, her closest government workers were her lawyer, her henchwoman, Cheryl Mills, Uma Abedin. None of them had that government.org. So all of her closest emails to her closest confidants, none of them were preserved.
And I agree that what the prosecution is going to do, and you know this, judges are prosecutors, they're going to try to find out whether or not any government records were exchanged through personal one email to another and did not make its way through the
Let me
government
ask the next
server.
I want to
question
bet those other people that worked with her had private servers too.
What about even the New York Times interviewed people that have worked in the State Department that use classified and send classified materials to one another? They say it is nearly impossible that she never had a classified document on her email. So was there a security risk, and would that legally justify the subpoena for the server?
Well, I think that that's one of the arguments that I would make, to allege that you never did anything regarding any classified information for the 4 years that you were there, and then to argue that you then wouldn't let anyone have access to this. Look, there is a conspiracy here, Sean, period, end of the story, because every Freedom of Information request, they had to go to Hillary or her assistant and say,
but she could legally
want
today, before any subpoena is issued, she could have that server destroyed, couldn't she?
Absolutely. I wouldn't be
Probably
surprised
is.
if it's
Gone.
destroyed
Yeah, but
already.
that could cause another issue. Again, the cover-up is
They
always
could
worse than the
CO
crime. But we're really jumping to conclusions. No one is saying here that any of these emails on this private server that she had are not preserved, and that's going to be the issue. If the government can prove that
She
somehow
said
that was
she
done.
deleted. Wait. She was very clear in saying she deleted them. I've got to believe that she understands. The Clintons aren't stupid. There are a lot of things. She understands that the only way you can fully delete it is to eliminate the server.
Well, that is true, and that's why I believe it would be hideous for her to do that, and I don't think she did
And then
do that.
she will say, well, I told everyone I deleted it.
You know, she indicates she deleted personal emails. She's not
Okay.
indicating
who
that she
decided what
And
was
who
personal?
decided?
That's the key in this case.
Her
shouldn't-
advisors.
the movement going forward.
But do you think she would be stupid enough to delete them on her device but not on the server?
Yeah, I don't think she's stupid to do that. That's my point. It's too easy to prove. I think that we have to change the policy, perhaps, but nevertheless,
Is there any way to recover it if, in fact, that server?
Well, you could send a subpoena for anything. I mean, you don't really need a grand jury investigation.
She might have.
She might have destroyed it. Yes. The issue is, can you trust this woman based on her history?
No.
But
What's
if
the
you
answer?
can't prove in the destruction of those servers that there
You
was
can't
emails.
prove legal liability.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting she did that.
criminal liability.
Or criminal liability, exactly.
So what did she have to hide? For all those years, what did she have to hide?
Obviously
Why did she
something.
do it?
We need a lot more
What about,
facts.
you know, there was an 18-minute gap in Watergate. There's a lot of gaps
We've
in terms
got
of Benghazi.
months of gaps, no emails for months during Benghazi.
Really?
Yeah, but nobody yet has been able to show that any of those emails resided on a private server, that they were destroyed.
We
Let
can't
us.
possibly know.
Understood, and that's why they need to change the policy that you do all government business.
No,
Period. End of
the
story on
policy
government.
is clear since 2013.
She didn't abide by it.
Yep.
She didn't follow it.
That policy actually is.
All right, we got a break.
Okay.
It is.
All right, guys.
No.
How do you really feel, Janine?
No, I don't feel it one way or another.